Welcome to the Jessica Papineau Show, living aligned, styled with purpose. The podcast where transformation begins and your next level life is waiting. I am Jessica Papineau, founder of CSJ Styling, and I believe that when you align how you present yourself with who you truly are, magic happens. Your confidence expands, opportunities open, and you step into the life you were meant to live, not just with style, but with intention and purpose. But here's the truth. Most women don't even realize what's holding them back. They feel stuck, second-guessing themselves, waiting for permission to shine. I've been there. I've seen what happens when women stop playing small and embrace their full potential. That's why I do what I do, because I know that transformation isn't just about clothes. It's about stepping into your power, owning your presence, and feeling completely aligned with the woman you're becoming. And that's exactly what this podcast is here to help you do. Each week, I'll be your guide, sharing insights, strategies, and mindset shifts that unlock the confidence you've been craving. You will hear from powerhouse women who've transformed their lives, practical steps to elevate your presence, and the little-known secrets to showing up fully everywhere you go. Hello, everyone. I am just so excited to begin this amazing conversation today with my beautiful friend, Michelle Chalfant, who is definitely more than a friend, because the day that I met her, we just like full on connection, like soul sister. We started talking and it just led us to all these really cool conversations. And we just dove in and got in there deep so fast that I was like, okay, you're my like sister from another mister. I don't know. It's like we were meant to be together. Stars aligned, and that happened. But I want to welcome you, Michelle, because I know this is going to be an incredible conversation. I can't wait to dive into all the things that you've done and that you're currently doing and all the things. But Michelle has been a therapist in the past, an MCLPC, and did that for many years. Right. And during that time, really perfected her craft and started to incorporate and integrate with the therapy some really spiritual, next level things that became her unique way of therapy. And in doing this, she realized she was meant for something bigger, meant to impact more people and really teach her methodologies, and impact at this very deep level. So Michelle has a podcast. She has a new book coming out, and I can't wait to dive in. I'm so excited, and I have all these questions, and I know we may not get to all of them because there's going to be some really juicy answers here. So Michelle, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jess, and congratulations on your show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going in hot.
Yes, you are.
We're starting here with and it's just going to continue. But, I know so many incredible women that bring so much value, not only to like my community, but bring so much value to my followers and those that are going to be involved in being on this podcast journey as well. And Michelle, you're very, very top on the list there. So I know that you'll be on more than one time.
Oh, well, thank you.
Where to begin? I mean, there's so many things, but I would really love if you could share a little bit about what what your frameworks are. I know it's you have 5 pillars that you work with this adult chair model. And if you could just share a little bit with the audience about what is this that you do?
Yes. Gosh, like you said, I do so many things. I'm an author, I'm a speaker, a podcast, all these things. And something that shifted in me really early on when I became a therapist was I don't love, and no shame or shade on therapists out there. I have beautiful friends that are therapists, but for me, I found myself doing a lot of teaching, and the way that my style was always different. It was very eclectic. So
Yeah.
very soon after I became a therapist, I also became a coach. And so the way that I work with people is sort of integrated, or I call it like a hybrid version. It's not one, it's not exactly coaching, but it's also not therapy. It's somewhere in the middle, and I sprinkle spirituality and all over everything.
Ooh.
So after working with many mentors over the years, and I have to credit my clients after I don't want to say this out loud, but I'm going to be proud and say working with people for 25 years. Okay. That ages me, but I don't care because I'm a wise woman.
Name it, girl.
I'm naming it, baby. So yeah. So what happened was, after, again, working with so many great mentors and teachers, and also I've been a seeker my entire life. I've always wanted to understand how the world works, how we heal, how do I transform my life? What are, since I was a teenager, honestly, and overcome a lot of my own stuff, from codependency to people pleasing. I even had some anxiety, depression in my 20s and my teens. I was really focused on always working with myself, and quite naturally, people would come to me even when I was a teenager and say, "Can you help me?" So over the years, what came of this was a lot of inner child work, which I love, but also working with triggers, which I've loved, and boundaries and all these different things. So it all came together in this book that I have. I mean, this book, this adult chair model, is really teaches people who they are today and how they got this way. I love it. Thank you for holding that up. The adult chair book is based on a model of it's a developmental model of self. So it goes through three different developmental phases of life. So we've got the child phase, which is 0 to 6. This is where we learn all about our emotions, where we learn about our true needs, like I need you to tell me I'm lovable, I need a hug, all these things. Spontaneity, passion, purpose, creativity, all of these things happen when we're 0 to 6 years old. I have to mention this one thing. It's so crazy to me. Also, what happens is we build a roadmap for the rest of our lives that we live off of by the time we are 6. So think about everyone that is listening to this. What year was it when you were 6? So imagine grabbing a paper map from that year, whatever that year was, and try to navigate where you live off of that paper map from whatever that year was when you were 6. It'd be kind of hard, right? Restaurants won't be there. Maybe stores won't be there. Parks won't be there. Like, everything changes, but our roadmap doesn't. So as adults, we live off of that. So those are where all of our beliefs are formed. This is where, again, limiting beliefs, empowering, they're all in there in the unconscious mind by the time we're 6. Then around 7 to 24, we live in what I call the adolescent chair, which is, this is when the ego forms, really comes online. It's really getting big and robust, and it's helping us to identify who we are. It's building the self. Okay. It's based in fear. It's based in survival mode. So it doesn't live in the moment. It only lives in the past and the future. And it's on guard. It doesn't know how to set boundaries. It is the part of us that, again, forms identities or parts around who it thinks we are. This is the birth of the inner critic, the fraud, this sounds bad, and it's not a bad part. A lot of people go, can we just get rid of that whole part of self? I'm like, no, it's part of who we are. But the ego part of us is the part of us that is here to help us to stay alive. It's driven by fear. And then around the age of 25, if we had parents or role models in our home that were living in the moment, that set boundaries, that were confident, that were strong, all of these things, then we quite naturally slide into what we call this adult chair, which is the healthiest version of self, 25 and up. And the problem is that most of us didn't have that. Or we might have had parents that set healthy boundaries, but they didn't feel their emotions, or they made fun of our emotions. So we might have had aspects of that. Some had more or less, So the book is based on that. So the part 1 of the book is all about the model. And I love it because I wrote it with it's really fun. I read the whole audio. I read the audio version a month or so ago.
Is
so
it
fun.
live?
Yeah, it's live. It's so fun.
I bought it, but I wasn't notified that because I pre-ordered it. I want to listen to your voice.
Oh
I'll
yeah,
let, I'll
it's
let you
so
keep going, but
fun.
I can't wait to listen to your voice reading it.
It's so fun because I was reading it and I was like, dang, this is really good. Because I was laughing at my own stories in the book. Like I talk about myself, I have client stories in there,
Yeah.
but I also take people on this journey. To me, it's a transformational journey because if you don't know how to do inner child work, you will when you're done with this book. Because I'm walking you through each step of the developmental process. And I think as I read it, I was like, this is really fun. So get a pen and paper or a journal and a pen and get the book and then go through this because God, I think everybody needs this book truly because we all didn't learn all the developmental stages in a healthy way. So this fills in the gaps. It teaches you how to it teaches you how to reparent yourself. And then part 2 are the 5 pillars. So I love to break down, and I think it's just who I am. I don't try to do this, but people say you simplify everything so I can understand it. I'm like, I didn't know I was doing that, but it's really fun because the 5 pillars teach us how to then grow or build a really healthy adult self. Because again,
Mm.
who taught us how to do that? So that's the book. That is what I do.
I love that it's half and half. I read so much. I listen to so many podcasts, but I am really discerning about what I'm pulling in because I want to get like the biggest, like juiciest nuggets and the things that I'm an action person. So I love the fact that you have the pillars in there as that, that second piece
Mhm.
once you fully, as you're reading, can understand these different phases. And then the practical, tactical, let's reparent. I love this idea of reparenting and yourself, and I've experienced it, but I know some out there haven't. Could you share a little bit more about what that is? And maybe I'm sure that has a lot to do with with your 5 pillars as
It
well.
does. And I'm glad you brought that up. It has a ton to do with the 5 pillars because people will say to me, number one, like, how do I teach my kids how to do this? What if I'm not a healthy adult? I'm not in my adult chair. What do I do? I'm like, it's okay. What we want to do is really work those pillars. So what I mean by reparenting self would be to kind of fill in the missing pieces that we might have missed along the way from the ages of, again, from the age of 0 to 24 years old. Like what was missed? Did you learn how to feel your emotions? No. We got to do that now. What beliefs are inaccurate in that roadmap or limiting beliefs? I'm only able to make X amount of dollars, or I'm only worthy if I'm in a relationship. We have all these beliefs that we're not aware of. That's why I love triggers. So the 5 pillars walk you through the process of empowering yourself. It will help you get unstuck. And it does help you to update that roadmap that, in a way, is again, it is about reparenting self. But part of it is doing that inner child work where if you didn't have a loving, nurturing mom, let's just say for an example, when
Yeah.
you learn how to do inner child work, you do that with yourself. So we
I know
can't,
I've experienced it.
so powerful.
I never understood it until experiencing it.
Yeah. Again, mentally, it's like, wait, what? We're reparenting it? Yeah. You're
It's
filling in the
cool.
block or the missing pieces. Like, if you didn't feel safe as a little kid growing up, that's when you're going to turn to that little kid inside of you, which again, I walk you through in the adult chair book. Like, how do we do all this work? It's like, well, you're going to turn toward that little kid inside or next to you, wherever you see or hear her or him, and you're going to have a conversation. And you're going to do it from the person you are today and say, hold on, little honey, I want you to feel, let's feel the emotion, like what's happening here. What are your needs? You're going to get quiet and ask, and you do hear the answers. That's what's so cool. And by doing this work, you do grow yourself up. You start to grow and fill in the missing pieces. And all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, my relationships are changing for the better. How did that happen? What's
Yeah.
happening here? Why am I able to set boundaries? Like what? Hold on a second. What's happening here? Well, you're becoming a healthier, functioning adult. And it's to no fault of our own that if we're missing in certain areas, I wasn't. I was so codependent. I was a people pleaser. I was like, oh, isn't this how it is? I didn't know how to set a boundary to save my life. Like I was horrible at all those things. Not because my parents were bad, but they didn't teach me, and that's okay. I'm going to learn it now. That's what I love about the book. It's very empowering when we take our
Mm.
power back and go, I can do this myself. That's why I said every human needs to have this book, because I've never met someone that didn't have stuff to work on. It's
That's
so
what I was going to ask you. Who did you write this book for?
Mm,
And like, who is that? Who needs the adult chair model? And it sounds like
everybody,
everybody, no
everybody.
matter what stage they're at. I mean,
Mhm.
I'm like over the top about this book and I've done so much work already, but I know that it needs to deepen. Do you find, and I know this is going to be one of those books because I have a boundaries book actually that I got when I was in my early 20s. It was called Where You End and I Begin. And
Yes.
do you know that book?
Yes. Wait, who wrote it? I know
I
that book.
can't remember the writer. I
Yes.
cannot for the life of me remember the writer. That book, I picked it up, I don't know, like a month ago, and I smelled it. It was so weird, but it smelled like an old library. Like I've had the book so much or so long, and you open it up and there's lines in it, it's
Oh.
highlighted, there's writing. And so I'm just saying this to say your book is that type of book.
Hmm.
And that's why I also got the audio because I've already been going in here and I'm starting to write and highlight and do different things. And then I thought, wait, I want to, because I really enjoy, not only do I enjoy listening to your voice, because I listen to your podcast all the time, but I'll be like, I want to be driving in the car and like, be getting little nuggets of the stories in there too, because every time I read something back or I look at it or what I've highlighted, it like I get something more and different out of it depending on where I'm at
Hmm.
that day.
Totally.
Or my growth, the way that I love to grow because I'm continuously learning, is that I might be my truth today was different when I read it the first time, and now I'm getting a new. So that's what I love about this. And
Mm.
so, do you find, because I know you have multiple ways of impacting,
Hmm.
as one person, I'm sure you found over the years, because you started out with the one-on-one coaching and therapy, and then you evolved to other things. And what I really am, and I wasn't intending on asking this question, but what I'm just so curious about, because I'm curious about doing this, some of these things in my business as well, is taking this special uniqueness that you
Hmm.
have, that you formulated in these 5 pillars and this juicy stuff that everyone needs to know, and then teaching others that model
Hmm.
to then pass it along, like this pay it forward, like it's so big, it's so expansive. Could you share a little bit about what that was like and how you started that and what that's been like for you, that experience?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love it. Yeah. So what happened was I continued to see clients, and the business kept growing. And someone in 2013 that I was working with said, "You need to start a podcast." And I was like, "What's a podcast?" So long story short, started a podcast like the end of November 2014. It just, and all that I did was talk about like ways that you help yourself using this model. So it could be anxiety. It could be beating up on myself or that negative inner critic or whatever it might be. I talked about it and I love talking about this stuff. It just
Yeah.
makes so much sense to me now. But anyway, the podcast got very, very big very quickly because number one, there weren't ton of podcasts, but people were sharing it. And I thought I'll do it as a resource for my clients. And by 2020, I said, I felt so bad. I was 1 year booked out seeing clients. I couldn't see any more
Oh my
clients. And I
gosh.
said, okay. And it was because the podcast just kept growing and people all over the world were saying, I want to work with you. How do
Yeah.
I get in? I want you to work this model with me. So I'm a meditation gal. And I started hearing in my meditations, you need to teach others to do what you're doing. You need to teach others to do. I heard it for like months.
Mm,
And I said, okay, I realized what I need to do is multiply myself, because people around the world really wanted to learn this and they wanted to work with me. So that's when I just realized I'm going to launch the adult chair coaching certification program. So that is what I did. The first program was in 2020, and we're running the next program in August, but we're launching it just in a few weeks. So yeah, so I also launched a membership. So the company became like two arms. So there
yeah.
were like the lay people that just wanted to learn this, apply it into their own lives. But then there were these people that were so passionate about this model, and they said, I want to help others do what you're doing. And I said, well, then come join me in the coaching program. So now we have this coaching program and a master coaching program over here. And then on the other side, I've got the membership. And then for everybody, I do live events, I do retreats, I do online courses. I mean, I've got so many different things, and it's all based around really building the healthiest relationship with self that we possibly can build, because nobody's good at it. Let's just face it. Nobody's got it down perfectly. And the more people I talk to over all these years, 25 years doing this work, even the people that you think have it together. And I remember working when I lived in Nashville, Tennessee, I had movie stars, singer-songwriters. I had people that made bazillions of dollars, millions and millions of dollars. I had music producers that were coming in, and I had stay-at-home moms, like, so everything in between. Guess what? They're all the same. Everybody's the same. Everyone's dealing with the same stuff. Like, everybody, we've all got issues with this. And by the way, this is where the 5 pillars came from. 25 years of working with people, no matter what color you were, what age you were, where you lived in the world. It's like, okay, the 5 things I kept teaching over and over again. You know what I mean? Can I list the 5 pillars?
Yes, I
This is
want to
like,
hear about the pillars.
this is the gold.
This is really nitty gritty, juicy stuff.
I kept realizing, like, no matter what, so the 5 pillars funnel through everything I teach, from the coaching program to the membership to the live events to all of it. But the first one is I own my reality. So what I mean by that is that we've got to look at what's going on in our world and say, okay, there's a pink elephant in the middle of the family room. I've got to be able to name it. So an example would be, I remember having a lot of clients that would come in and say, Michelle, I gotta get some off my chest. I go, okay, here we go. And it would be like, I'm drinking too much, or I want to leave this relationship. I'm not happy anymore. I want to end this, and I don't know what to do about it. Or I think my kid might have ADHD, and I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to own it. I don't want to admit it. So we would talk about it. What I realized was, that's so much of where we're stuck, is that we don't own our stuff. And it doesn't mean you have to put it on social media. And by the way, it doesn't mean you have to tell anybody. It does mean you own it within yourself. You say, okay, I'm drinking way too much. I used to have 2 glasses a day. Now I'm having 4, I'm having a whole bottle. Something's not right. That alone starts to move the energy forward. That starts changing you and your circumstance just by owning it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense.
The second thing is I practice self-compassion. This also goes into the reparenting of self, but also it strengthens self, it strengthens our relationship with self. We're great at beating up on ourselves. We're great at looking at our shirts going, is this too stretched out?
However, like before we started this podcast about being on Riverside, which we're on Riverside to get the content for the podcast, and it looks great when it all comes out, but you have to look at yourself looking a little off. It's not like you're filtered and you have all the lights and everything on Zoom. So yeah.
All the wrinkles, my 11 lines are screaming at me. But so that's so the practicing self-compassion is really developing and cultivating, growing that inner voice. That's the adult voice. That's the higher self voice that is actually like your best friend, that loves you unconditionally, that's kind. When we build up that self-compassionate voice, oh my God, Jess, it's like self-worth goes up, self-esteem goes up, self-love starts expanding, like everything starts changing in our lives. And I really want to point out for people too, when we do this, I don't even like to call it work, because to me, it's just a way of life. All my coaches say this, they go, we just live the adult chair. Like, this isn't like something we just do with clients. It's, you integrate it into your life. This is not the kind of book that you read and you put it down, you move on. My hope is that every human reads it and integrates it and lives it. So for the rest of your life, own your reality. Continue to grow that voice of self-compassion. The third one is I feel my emotions. People Again, if I had $1 for every person that came in my office and said, I don't do emotions, or I'm fine, I don't need to talk about it. Yes, we're going to talk about emotions because emotions are our superpower and we're not great at them. We stumble, and people would come in and say, I don't cry. So don't think you're going to get me to cry. And that was like I was like, we're going there, honey. Like, okay. By the end, they're like, how'd you do it? I'm like, yeah, because think about your body. Um, we're energy beings first. And on top of it is this human suit. And that's the costume that I wear. I'm Michelle Chalfant. You're Jessica Papineau. It's like, that's a suit we wear. But ultimately, we're energy beings and our emotions are energy. So even if I say I'm in grief or I'm sad or I'm happy, you can't see it. What does it look like? I can't hold it in my hand because it's moving through the body, which is also energy. So I think about the human form being like a river, and it's always moving very slowly and gentle river. When we have an emotion like I'm sad, I'm unhappy, I'm in grief, whatever it might be, it's like a log in that river. What are you going to do with that log? Do you let it pass through and just feel it? Or do you stop it and go, why do I feel sad? What's going on? Maybe I'll have a glass of wine. Maybe go watch Netflix. Maybe I'll go shopping. That takes us into analysis. And that's when those logs get stuck. We've got to learn how to just let them come through and be uncomfortable, be comfortable in our uncomfortableness of these emotions. So again, every section, including all the pillars, client examples, lots of questions, journaling, and examples and exercises that take you through how you work this in your own life. But the next one is I own my triggers. We're not great at triggers, but oh my God, I love being triggers. I love being triggered because triggers.
I do too.
I
never
love
thought
it.
I'd say that, and I love it. I love it because it brings it up so you can clear it.
Yes, it's a beautiful way to get in touch with your unconscious or unknown emotions. If you're not triggered, you can go do hypnosis to find them, but the triggering is fast and it's free. So
I like to bring up my own triggers.
Yes.
By going and spending time with the younger self and let it come up.
Totally. Anytime throughout the day. I have my phone. I mean, we all have our phones on us, right? You know, the note section in the phone?
Yes.
Okay. I have a folder that's for triggers.
Oh,
I mean, any time throughout the day. If something happens today and I go, oh, that kind of triggered me, even if it's a teeny tiny bit, you better believe it. I'm going to write it down in my notes. And when I create every morning, I do like a meditation and I journaling. I will work that trigger during that time. I never miss a trigger because I want to clean my slate. That's something I use in my coaching program all the time. Clean your slate. You can only take people as far as you've gone. You've got to do your self work. So clean it up. So I love cleaning out these triggers. And I find the more I clean out my triggers and work with them and bring them to the surface, and then we reframe them through this model, you actually get to reframe them. The more stable I am, the more emotionally regulated I am, the more at peace I live. In my 20s, I was all over the place. I was high and low and all over the place. Working triggers is phenomenal. And then the last one is I set healthy boundaries, which I was a train wreck in my 20s setting boundaries. And much like you, I had a lot of boundary books, but I had to learn how to do it. And I've learned a lot about boundaries over the last 25 years. I love it now. And I've learned that, again, throughout the years, you need a lot more than a boundary script. Scripts don't do anything. I used to hand out scripts and I'm like, why aren't they setting boundaries? So I feel like I've done research for all these years. Like, what is it? What are some magic ingredients with boundaries? So I've got all those in the book, but one of the most important ones for setting boundaries, which I don't know if people talk about it, you have to tell me if it was in the book you read, but is self-worth.
Yes, I want to lean in more with what you just said, because as you're talking, Michelle, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking back actually to the reading of that book and why I really needed to refer back to it so many times, because when I started with it, I hadn't done the reparenting part to make it feel good when I was setting the boundary.
Yes, so good.
And so I love that you're like the way that you have your framework of these pillars set up in the right sequence. Because even in business, right? It's like we know what the right things are sometimes because we educate ourselves in all these things, but it's like doing the right things in the right sequence is
Totally.
the secret formula that doesn't have to be a secret because there's a book written.
Right, exactly.
It's no longer a secret.
It's no longer a secret. But talking about business, it's fascinating to me how triggered we are in business.
Oh, I love that you're talking about this.
It's so true. And what do we do with it? We can either call a friend, invent about it, which, by the way, takes that beautiful. Can I break down what a trigger is so people understand
Yes,
why it's so
let's do it.
important? Because it's going to come up in business. And I know you work with so many beautiful women that are rising up and growing that self-worth and putting themselves out there. Like, this is big stuff. When you can understand what a trigger is and how to work with it, it's a game changer for expansion, bringing more abundance in, wealth, friendships, more business, whatever it might be. But a trigger is an unconscious or unknown belief that we have about ourselves. So the trigger is, again, if you say something to me today and I feel a little, that doesn't feel good, I'm going to write that down. Like, something happened on the podcast today. I'm going to go sit with it. But what we want to do is get really curious about what that feeling was or is that's rising up for me. It's not happening to me. It's happening for me. The only reason I'm getting triggered is because I have a belief that's limiting, and that's what's rising up. So I got to look at it. When I look at that belief, so for example, if I'm angry, let's just pretend I get off the show today and I'm frustrated with you. She frustrated me. I didn't like that question she asked me. It was really embarrassing, right? Instead of calling a friend going, can you believe Jess said this about me? I mean, blah, 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 blah. And then what happens is, when that belief is sitting right here on a silver platter in front of my face, right here, if I call a friend and she says, oh my God, I can't believe she did that, she's horrible, that belief is going to start dropping back down into the unconscious mind, and it's gone. It's validating an ego belief that I have, that I don't really want to have that anymore.
And is that what real projection, like when someone says they're projecting on me, or
yeah,
is that what that is?
So a projection would be, it's when I have a belief and I'm seeing that belief through my lens out into the world and I'm putting it on you. So for example, if I think that okay, here it is. If I have, if I'm money hungry, let's just say, I talk about money all the time. That's my thing. Yeah. I'm going to look at you and or I might say to a friend or you, that Jessica Papineau, all she talks about is money. And it's like, and you're like, what are you talking about? That's not me. That's not who I am.
Okay.
You see? So I'm seeing my reality on you as if you are a projector. Think about being in a movie.
It's like a mirror.
Yes. So think about being a movie theater. You are my projector screen, but the person doing the projecting is me. So my beliefs are going on you. So if I'm a gossiper, if I gossip about a lot of people and I hear you say one thing, I'm going to go, that Jessica Papineau, she gossips about everybody. And it's like, and people will be like, no, I think it's you, Michelle. Like, so you see, but that's the thing with projecting, we don't see ourselves. That's why we need other humans to help us. Otherwise, unless you have high awareness, but but a trigger is mine. And you're actually saying something to me and reflecting like a mirror back to me. But let me say it like this, for me, not to me, so that I can then see my stuff, because otherwise I can't see it. And I'll promise you this, when you work through triggers, you are triggered less. And eventually those main triggers, they start to fade.
That was going to be my other question to you. And how does this, so the trigger, you explained it about the mind and like it coming up as, these limiting beliefs or all of these things. What about, because I know you integrate the both, how does it feel in the body? I know how it feels for me, but what is the typical, feelings that may come over you that will indicate this really is a trigger for me?
Yeah. So here's the difference between a trigger and being angry. Okay. So if I go to the grocery store, I'm going to Whole Foods, let's just say, Trader Joe's, they have horrible parking at Trader Joe's. So I'm going to Trader Joe's. and I'm waiting for this parking spot. And I'm sitting, waiting. This guy pulls out and this other person comes ripping around the corner and takes my spot. And I am pissed. I am angry, right? So I go into the store and I start gathering my fruits and vegetables, and I'm in the produce section. And now I'm thinking about dinner. That was just being angry. Like sometimes we're just angry. I love anger. Anger is a great emotion. They're not angry enough. We shove that down too. We all learn how to just be angry and we move on. A trigger is if I'm in that grocery store and then I'm calling you on the phone going, you're not going to believe this guy. I was sitting there waiting for that spot for 5 minutes and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking about something that happened in the past. If it's been over 30 minutes to an hour and I'm still thinking about that thing, that's a trigger. How do I know when I'm triggered? I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I also might be feeling it in the body. I might be feeling knots in my stomach.
Yeah.
My heart's racing. I might disassociate, for God's sake. Right? I'm so uncomfortable. I disassociate. I can't even feel anything because I left my body and I realize I don't know my name right now.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about that. The disassociation and what that feels like and what that is. Cause I've experienced that, and it's actually, it's really freaky.
And I want people to hear too, it's not bad. It's what we learned typically as kids, 0 to 6. Again, it's the roadmap. It's the roadmap again. But again, sometimes as adults, we may need to do that. But most things happen from 0 to 6. So let me say it like this. Disassociation was my superpower growing up. That helped me a lot. So when things got uncomfortable at home, I had a grandmother that was an alcoholic. I had an uncle that was an alcoholic and a narcissist. And we all lived together in this big, beautiful lake house every summer. My parents and I and my cousins, we'd all go down there and live. So in many ways, it was the most beautiful time of my life, but also unsafe because my grandmother and uncle were ragers. It just didn't feel good. So I would check out. I would leave. I just whoop out of the body. Now, I didn't know I was doing it then, but as I got older, and my husband, I realized, would even raise his voice. My husband was nothing like my uncle or grandmother by any means, but I noticed when I was around people that would get angry or get upset, my uncle would also what is this called? Pursing your lips, like tighten his lips.
Yeah.
My uncle would do that. So guess what? Because we always marry, the person we are in relationship with, it could even be a friend, but certainly our primary partnerships bring up our wounding big time. So guess what my husband does when he gets angry? Just like my uncle. Now, the level of anger that Graham would have is light years different than my uncle, right? But he does that because we attract in what we know. There's no, oh, that's ironic. No. We attract in what we know. So anyway, Graham would do that. And I realized I'd leave. I wouldn't even know my name. I'm like, why do I feel like I'm 5 years old all the time when he's pursing his lips like that? He's like this.
Oh my God.
Even if he wasn't even mad at me, he'd be like mad at something like the dog would be doing, let's say, or one of my kids would be doing something when they were toddlers. And he'd be like, I said, get in the house, and I'd go, whoop, I could feel my body would get tingly and I'd leave.
That is okay. So everything you just said, I'm like, it's mind blowing to me because I know a lot about triggers, but how you're describing it is so cool. The pursing of the lips, it just makes me think. My husband also does that, and I realize I know what the trigger is. It's my dad, who's an alcoholic. When I was growing up, and it was especially in my teen years, and there was some abuse going on, I was so hypersensitive of, he'd walk in the door and the way he would move, his facial expressions, how he would, put the beers down that were clanking, how he put them down and were they wobbling and what was his face. And I mean, I could any minute thing, if he was squinching weird, that was my indicator. Do I have to be on guard right now? Do I have to be in fight or flight, or can I somewhat relax? And so this pursing of the lips, it's not just that, because a couple other little things he does, and it just I feel it in my body. My whole body will go tingly.
Yep. Yes. And you know what? I'm so glad that you had that. And I'm so glad that I had that, because that was what we learned as little kids. We were both highly sensitive children. and we learned to disassociate. So I really want to flip this around for people, because a lot of people I've worked with over the years, they judge them. They judge the little kid. Why did I do that? Now I do it now as an adult. I'm like, well, thank God you did it as a kid.
Yeah.
Thank God. Because you know what? You are protecting yourself. And when we're highly sensitive or empaths, thank God I did that. What else are we going to do? When I'm 6 years old, I can't get in the car and drive away. Like, I can't run away. I've got to stay in the house, the household. So what can I do? And this is the brain of a little kid. So we do things like this. So what I started doing when I realized why, Graham would be talking to me and he'd be like, whatever. Well, why don't you go and get the dog? He's running. I remember this one time. Oh my God, I can see it like it was yesterday. It was okay. It was 1997. Okay. I had a baby. I just had my first child. Okay. So I'm holding my son, and we had built our home, and the home next door was being built. So there's mud everywhere. And we had this big, like we have now, big giant yellow lab. And he had run outside. He went through the mud, and we had just moved into our house like a month ago, running through the house with the mud all over his feet. I'm holding the baby, and my husband went bonkers. He was like, there was mud everywhere on this beautiful brand new carpeting, and it was everywhere. And he's yelling at the dog, not yelling at me. And I am a statue, totally disassociated out of my body, because he's yelling. Someone would yell and I'd leave. I just naturally, you're not even thinking about it. It's a program. It's just a program from childhood. And I remember he turns to me and he goes, why are you helping me? And I remember my legs would feel like they were concrete. I couldn't hear anything. It was like everything is out of like muffling, like, whoa, 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 like, what? And I looked at him, he goes, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, what? And he's like, help me with the dog. And I'm like, oh, okay. And it's like wobbly, right? So over the years, when I started learning like what the heck was going on, because way back when no one's talking about like, you're disassociating, you need to do inner child work. But that was honestly when I started learning all about it with John Bradshaw, the beautiful inner child work. And I started then exactly doing, honestly, what I do in this book, right? So in the adult chair book, I talk about this. This is that reparenting of the child. So what I would do, I learned then, and you have to say to yourself when you're not disassociated, the next time this happens, the woman I am today, the age I am today, I'm going to connect with that part of me that is disassociating. And I'm going to say to her or him, and so I'm safe, whatever words you need. Again, everyone is different. I would say to myself, which I just love this. Number one, you got to say it nice and slow. So I would say, okay, I'm okay. I'm okay. It's safe to be here. I needed to say to myself the words that I needed to hear. So if someone's listening, take those words, please take them, or phrases, or find your own that resonate. It's about resonating with you. So I started saying to myself, hold on a second. Like I remember doing this work and I was probably 40, and I would say, hold on a second. I'm 40 years old. The year is whatever it was, 2000, whatever. I don't even know. 2005, let's just say whatever it was, or 2010. I'm 40 years old and I'm safe. And I didn't say it out loud. So if Graham's yelling at the dog or the kids or whomever is saying whatever, I started just nurturing myself in the moment. And Jessica, it was so cool.
I love that.
I started being able to stay present. Okay, so it's a journey, right? I started to be able to stay present. I stopped getting concrete legs. I stopped getting tingly. I started to be able to handle the uncomfortableness of someone else yelling. So I had to learn how to get comfortable in the uncomfortableness and hold it. Now I have a very big capacity. And I have to say, I'm really proud of myself because I didn't have this in the past. I can not only hold it for myself, I can hold it for others now. Nothing shakes me. Like I really mean that.
Oh, I just feel I feel you right now, just in this moment, I feel the power of it coming out of the screen to me. Like I wanted to do this podcast to share you obviously with all the people that are going to watch it and listen to it. And it just, I love that there's going to be so many things that you just say on this one podcast today that are going to resonate with so many, but I got to tell you, I'm learning some things today and I've done so much work
Yeah.
But, with what you just said, and I love how you break it down to the specific,
Yeah.
like a specific situation, and then the how to in that moment. And I had this realization as you were talking that, because when I'm triggered, and it has to do with men and anger. I mean,
Yep.
that's really, and,
Totally.
and again, it doesn't have to be directed towards me, but it paralyzing. I'm not the
Mhm.
same person. It's
Nope.
it's the complete disassociation. But what I just realized, and how you described like what you have gone through, and then how you kind of, not just reframe it, but how you speak to yourself, but how you
Mhm.
speak to the that younger
Yes.
version. I realized that what I'm doing still to this day with all the work that I've done is I'm judging
Mhm.
myself.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I'm also judging her, like the old version of myself. So what it's doing is it's preventing the words that I'm saying, because what I say to myself is, Jessica, you're safe, but I add right now. Like in
Mm,
this moment, like
yes.
I need
Yeah.
to like say those words to like check in. Are you okay right now? You're okay right now. So let's just stay with that, because I have to like do it in small amounts, or it just feels too big. But I just realized and when we do this to ourselves, this is where I've had every breakthrough, is
Mm.
the realization that I'm either judging right now. And I know that people are listening, and I'm sure resonating with this, because my audience is that high performing woman. She's that high achiever. She's that perfectionist. So she tends to always, if something goes awry or something's happening that is not incongruent with or alignment with what she desires, it's her fault.
Totally.
It's her fault. It's nobody else.
Yeah.
It's her. Like she can change it. And so that is, I'm just, my mind is just blown, because sometimes it's just one thing, that somebody says, and that really hit home for me. And I'm sure there's other things that you've said that are hitting home for everybody else. I love this. Is there
And
anything that you would like to, because I know you have your own podcast, but you go on so many podcasts, and you also have
mhm.
these communities where you hear these consistent things of what people are going through and what they need to hear and learn from you. Is there anything that you feel you want to bring up, or share, that you haven't shared yet, that like this is like something that I need to share with whoever is listening today?
Mm. Start now.
Oh, that's good.
It's never too late. People would say to me, but I'm so old, or I didn't correct that years ago, or I haven't done any personal work, or it doesn't matter. Start now. It's perfect timing right now. And I love, to your point, what you just said, which is so important as well, is that we have that ego part of us. The ego's not bad, but it unless we balance it, and the only way to balance, or not the only way, one of the main ways to balance it is to bring in that healthy adult. Because if we don't, our ego is in the driver's seat unless we are in our adult driving, right? We want to put the ego in the back seat so we can say, okay, let me nurture that beautiful child of mine on the inside. Let me share the words that I actually need to hear. Only you know what you need to hear. But do start now. Do start now. People say that to me, like when they want to join the coaching program. They're like, "Oh my God, I haven't done any work. Can I do this?" I'm like, start now. Dedicate your life right now. So if you're a businesswoman, and I know your audience is, they're all businesswomen, or they're starting out, start now. The main and most important relationship that you want to have in your life, if you're growing your business, is yourself. Turn back towards self and create an incredible relationship with yourself. If it were me, I would use the 5 pillars in this book. I'm really, truly, this is honestly the Bible that we all needed when we were like 18, before we left the house, because we need to learn how to grow into our healthy adult selves. And this is the kind of work, kind of like you've said many times today, and I loved hearing you say that you've done a lot of work. Me too, and I'll never stop, and I don't think you will either, because we want to
No.
become stronger and better humans, not better than anybody. It's not about being better than anybody. In fact, the more I do my work, the more I realize how equal I am to everybody. I'm not better than anybody on this planet. But I love doing my work because I get to know myself a little bit more. And every time I do another piece of work, I love myself a little bit more. And I like myself a little bit more, and I celebrate myself a little bit more. And you need those qualities if you're going to grow your business. You have to be
Yes,
your
you
best
have to.
cheerleader. You've got to be the one that cheerleads you more than
Mhm,
anybody, because you're going to
mhm.
run into roadblocks. Everybody does, whether you have a business or not. But most importantly, if you have a business, you're going to run into roadblocks, giant speed bumps and walls. What are you going to do? Can you stay can you stay regulated? Can you talk yourself over that wall? Because you can. I believe we all can.
Yes, I agree. It's interesting that you're bringing up business because when I had the biggest breakthrough financially in
Mhm.
my business was on the heels of me healing. And what do you call the teenage when it's
The
between
adolescent chair. Yeah.
the adolescent chair?
Mhm.
So I hadn't done all that work yet. I like had done like more of the before, and I didn't realize I learned in and it was it was somatic work that I was doing, but I learned that that age that I was at, around 16, 17, 18,
Mhm.
that age, I didn't know that I hated her. That part of
Mm.
me, I
Yeah.
didn't like her.
Yep.
I had to face that. Once I realized that and faced that, I nurtured her,
Mm.
and that's when the shift happened in my business.
Totally. I love this. I talk about this when I'm on live events on big stages, and I'll say, I talk about feral Michelle.
All right, tell us more.
Feral Michelle was a 12-year-old that hated me. So she was she was the part of me that when I would hear, I mean, she swore like a truck driver, like really, like, I effing hate you. You're so stupid. Every negative thing you can possibly say, that's what I would hear in my head. And this is all of the work I do comes down to this. You turn toward everything, but especially turn toward what scares you. Turn toward the voices, turn toward the inner critic, and get to know it. I do a lot of parts work, but it's my own version of parts work. I do more spiritual parts work. So this is when you turn toward. So that's what I did. I just closed my eyes. I said, all right, who's saying this to me? I don't care if it was in business or personal life. When I made a mistake, this voice would be so freaking loud. And I'm visual. So I want to let everybody know when you do this work, not everybody is visual, and that's okay. You can just do it from an auditory perspective. Like, what am I hearing or what am I sensing? You just might sense a little kid sitting next to you or in front of you or in your body. So, anyway, but I'm visual and sense and I can hear. So I closed my eyes and I saw this little girl who was 12. She was chained by her ankle to a tree near a river. She reminded me of, wait, was it in not Lord of the Rings? Yeah, Lord of the Rings. The who's the I can't think of the guy's name, the bald guy. You do see Lord of the Rings?
No, it's not my
Okay.
thing.
Anyway, it's like that guy I can't remember the guy that lived at the river that was like wanted that ring more than anything. He was kind of gross, very gross, like no teeth. This
Yeah,
girl had hair. It was me, 12 years old,
yeah,
hair coming down, kind of falling out, screaming, yelling, spitting at me, dirt all over hair. The clothes were tattered and torn. And I stood there in the scene of the woman I am today. And I
yeah,
saw her and she came running at me and she had an ankle like chain that was tied to the tree. And she's this far from my face, spitting at me, swearing all the things. I effing hate you. You suck. You're not going to amount to anything. You're not going to be able to build a business. This is years ago.
yeah.
And I looked at her and I said, thank you. And I love you. I love you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to make a long story short. So that took minutes. Like, this isn't like hours of work, minutes.
No,
And I said, thank you,
transformations
thank you,
can
thank you.
happen.
So
Yeah,
fast. So then the next day I came back and this 12-year-old was a little less tattered and disheveled looking, but she still ran up to me and swore at me in the face and yelled and screamed and all this stuff. Came back the next day. She looked a little bit better and a little bit better. It took 5 days of doing maybe 5 minutes of work a day. And by the last day that I did this work, I went up to her and I said, I appeared in the scene and she was standing as a little girl who was 3 years old in a little Easter Sunday dress.
mm,
And that's who was underneath this big, angry feral, what I call it, because she looked like a feral cat, like a feral animal that would have gone wild. And there was a little girl standing there, and it was me when I was 3. So, and I picked her up and I hugged her, and it was the most beautiful thing. But that's what happens with who we are. So we have these precious parts on the inside, and the ego builds structures over to actually protect these beautiful, beautiful little parts inside. And we don't, that's why I love working with triggers. That's all of this work is around uncovering who we really are. And it's finding that true self, because the ego builds this big false self. So when we peel back the layers, we find that's really who we are. These loving and unconditionally loving and accepting incredible humans. But we don't know who we are unless we do our work and look inward and get to know these parts.
Well, for even, what you just said, Michelle, I'm just thinking about, all the people that are listening, and I'm sure there are many of you that have, done much work along the way with, whether it be therapy or coaching, business or personal coaching, life coaching. And, I hear a lot of women that have kind of along the way done these things to grow themselves and
Mhm.
feel their feelings, and they know about triggers and all the things. But one thing that I do see is that that some people would, and this was me, this was me before I had breakthroughs. I would get to a certain point, it would bubble up, and
Mhm.
I could only go so far with the feeling, and it was like I wasn't going through. And I
Yes.
realized that it was a fear, because that fear of, like, those feelings can be so intense, it feels
Mhm.
like it's going to kill you.
Oh, it does.
But I mean,
Mhm.
and I just want to share. So for those of you out there that have done other therapies, you're still in growth mode, you're still learning, you're trying to discover, because there's so much out there now. I mean, so much information out
Mhm.
there. Like, if I want to learn something and make real transformation in my life and get to this place, I call it like a transcendence, because it's just
Mhm.
this power, and you feel lighter, and you can make decisions with clarity because you're in tune with yourself and your body. If you desire to get to that next level and collapse the time, and
Mhm.
where you've been bumping up for all these years, but there's just that thing, and you whoever's listening, you know what I'm talking about. I want you to really take the time to go and follow Michelle on social media. I want you to go and listen to her podcast. Your podcast
The Michelle
is
Chalfant Show.
the Michelle Chalfant Show. And I want you to go and get the adult chair book, because if you desire to make these transformations, there's an action step that you're going to need to take with faith and with
Mm.
trust, and just be consistently doing these things that Michelle has talked about today, but where she really dives in deep, in the adult share book.
Mm.
I highly recommend that you do that now. And, after reading the book and wanting to read it back, and if you have more curiosity, reach out to her, because this is really big work. This is like next level, of what, innovative work. And Michelle, I just wanted to say thank you so much, not only for being here today, not only for being my incredible friend that I could call at any moment if I'm breaking down. And if you're not available, you'll send me a long voice memo and talk me off a ledge. Not only that, the fact that I just want to go back to you actually making the decision to create what you've created
Mm.
with this beautiful, not only container, but with these actionable things that anyone can do. I just want to thank you for trusting yourself and
Mm.
listening to yourself and taking that next step. Because, and I talk to, the women that I coach and style about living in the gray
Mhm.
area. And it's like, you took all of this work from therapy that you have been doing, psychotherapy, right?
Mhm. Therapy and coaching. Yeah, yeah.
And coaching for years, and then incorporated spirituality
Yes.
and different, your own methodologies, and married it together. This is what I'm talking about with gray. So I want everyone to know that when you have the knowing
Mhm.
of the something a little bit more that you know it's your gift, remember that if you choose not to take the action, because you had, I'm sure, there was this moment in which you were like, do I stay or do I go? Do I lean in or is this crazy? You trusted the knowing. And I want to invite all of you to, if you have those feelings, to lean into them, pay attention, be curious, and know that if that's your knowing, that's really your gift to share with the world. And
Mm.
if you choose not to do that, like Michelle has done, think about all the people that will never have the opportunity to receive the transformations based upon the gifts that you have to share with them. Think about if Michelle Chalfant never took that step and created what she's created, there would be so many people that did not have the opportunity to have these transformations. So I just want to thank you. I adore you. I love you.
Oh,
And I'm so excited for the listeners and those that are watching to have this experience of knowing you and being a part of your world.
thank you so much. You are you are my soul sister, one of the soul sisters in the tribe, and I adore you as well. And thank you. This was just so absolutely beautiful, as my time always is with you. So thank you.
Thank you. And we'll make sure we have everything in the show notes for everyone to get connected.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
All right. Bye, everybody. I hope today's episode sparked something in you, a shift, a realization, or even just the permission to step more boldly into the life you're meant to live. If you loved what you heard, don't forget to hit the subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling inspired, I'd love for you to leave a review. It is the best way to help more women just like you discover this show and start their own transformation. Want to dive even deeper? Connect with me. You can find me on Instagram at @thejessicapapineau or head to csjstyling.com to explore how we can work together to align your style, confidence, and the vision you have for your life. Thank you for being here, for showing up and investing in yourself. Until next time, remember, you are worthy, you are powerful, and when everything about you is in alignment with your vision, you become unstoppable.